ongoing stress to the point that it starts to wear you, and stress will wear you if you don't. Thanks so much for
Yeah.
coming and agreeing to have this conversation. It's something we've talked about together, and I thought it would be really important for our audiences and the people we know and interact with to talk about this as well. We're going to talk about it's a subject that is really really important. It's burnout,
Right.
and it's really really
Absolutely.
important now, especially as people are living through this COVID experience we're having. It's weighing down more and more. So today I've got people that my audience hasn't seen before. Emily and Deanna coming in from different places in the world. You guys want to just give a little
Absolutely.
bit about yourself? Emily, you want to start?
Sure. Be happy to. Hi, everyone. My name's Emily Citrone. I'm a burnout coach, and I help leaders reduce stress, redefine success, and banish burnout to help them achieve their peak performance. And I'm happy to be here and having this conversation. This is really important.
Awesome, awesome. D.
Yeah, so I'm Diana Diniz, or better known as D, for Stephen and Emily. I'm calling in from the Netherlands. I'm a career development manager slash career coach. And what that means is that I coach people to find out what their next step is in their career and choosing a sustainable career. And with sustainable career, of course, burnout comes into place. Myself, I experienced burnout, so I'm an advocate of making sure that I coach people not to get into it, or leaderships to know how to deal with it. So happy to be here today because it's a subject that's very dear to me and to Emily as well. So very glad to be here and speak to all of you.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And I'm Stephen Bouchong. I'm Senior Vice President and an Executive and Team Coach, and started creating content to try to help the world be a better place, make an impact by helping people achieve their full potential. So let's get started. When something I question and I wonder, and maybe other people do, for me guys, like, what is burnout?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that.
Yeah, jump.
So, put it simply, burnout is that state when you're in complete emotional and physical exhaustion. Your tank is empty, the battery is at zero, you have nothing left to give. There's really three core dimensions to it. This is based on research. And that is, again, the physical and emotional exhaustion, feeling a sense of detachment, cynicism to your work, those around you, and also a decline in your job performance.
Wow.
Plus a myriad of other symptoms as far as physical, emotional, and behavioral.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you anything to add to that? I mean, because that's big.
Well, I'm glad Emily took the first one because I can because I really think that for me it ticks all the boxes. So if you ask me what is a burnout, for me it's taboo in a lot of corporate environments still to the day. So I'll tell you my perspective on what I think is a burnout. I think Emily hit it correctly. Like, that's the official one. And from my own experience working in a corporate world where I stepped into a burnout, I was one of the people that didn't believe in it. Like, I literally thought that burnout was for people that were just doing a job that was above their capabilities until it hit me. So I think, so that's how I see a burnout. And what Emily just explained, yes, it is physically exhausting. Your performance is leading the sense of as I am here, I'm always smiling. That wasn't the case. Mood swings like crazy. So you don't recognize yourself. It's really not recognizing yourself as a professional and in your personal life anymore. So I think that's it for me when I look at it from a personal experience.
Wow, it seems so. It's interesting. So I've led teams for a long time, and watching, you can sometimes see when we've just gone through a real peak period for something, and all of a sudden you see people who are they're just not there. They just seem to be slowing down. I like Emily, what you said about the tank being empty. It's almost like they seem to be like going by on fumes, and so that was something where as a leader, I could notice and I could say, hey, something else is going on here. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just talked about that, and Emily, you mentioned a couple of things. So how do we, or how does a person, I mean, how does a person know that, maybe they're not in burnout, but they're approaching it? Or how does a leader, or a company, some manager of them, or even their colleagues, what are the signals that we get that, we're approaching this red zone?
I mean, you really have to kind of tune into what's going on with you. Is this, you know, how you normally work? Usually, something is wrong, stress is inevitable. But when we stay in this place, that's when our work and our lives really start to diminish. Are you getting sick all the time? Are you feeling aches and pains in your body? Do you have headaches? Are there more bad days than good days? Are you feeling always in a bad mood? It's always everyone else's fault. Are you just getting to the point where you think, I just can't do this anymore as far as your daily tasks and what you need to do? Burnout is a slow burn. It's not something that comes all of a sudden. It's kind of, maybe months in the making. And it's really kind of tuning into what's going on with you in your life. What's standing in your way? Is your work diminishing because of this?
Yeah, I see that. And Dee, when you were talking about, because you worked a lot of corporates, you were in the corporate environment and you went through this.
Yeah.
As you think about what you were experiencing, and then what you coach people on, what is it that you say, hey, keep an eye out for this?
Yeah, so it was funny, when we talked about doing this session, and I thought that every burnout experience was different, but then, Emily wrote some notes, and I was like, oh, these are the signals for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not only me, but still, the first signal that I tell people, and I think that Emily hit it there, that it's something that, do you have more bad days than good days? I mean, we all had a bad week or a bad month, right? Deadline for a project, but that's not the case. And then, can you let it go? Because that detaching from the work stress, when that happens and you cannot detach, that's the first signal for me. Personally, I say if you normally snooze once and now you're snoozing 12 times before you go to work,
Right.
that was
Right.
my thing. Like I snooze like crazy, and I wasn't recognizing it, but I thought, oh, I'm just tired. Um, so when you think you're just tired for longer than a few consecutive weeks, then that should be an alarm. But I know, Emily, how you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I felt like I was on a hamster wheel that I couldn't get off. That
Yeah.
if I just kept going and going and going, that would fix everything. But it really essentially made everything so much worse that I wasn't capable to do my job the way I knew I could.
Yeah.
What happens? I mean, so people talk about burnout, and
Yeah.
there is some stigma around it. People are afraid to talk about it openly, because we have the stigma. I'm in the States, in Europe as well. These things are, people's like, yeah, go, go, strong, strong, strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the real important reasons that people should be addressing this, both from a personal perspective and then from a company perspective? Do you want to
So
start?
Yeah.
yeah, I think personally, I was really ashamed of it. Uh, like people told me you're
Yeah.
in a burnout, and I didn't believe them. Like I had all the signs. So it's this shame about, no, not me. Like no. Uh, and I think why you should address it because it opens. You don't only help you, but if you're the first one experiencing this in a corporate world, you're opening up the floor for more, because a lot of people
Hmm.
don't talk about the first symptoms. So if you could be
Okay.
the first one to actually do that, you can also help educate leaders. And I think, when I'm lucky enough that in a corporate environment, I told them, like, I'm seeing some things. I even refer to it as there's something wrong with me. That's how
Yeah.
I addressed it. Like, there's something wrong with me. I cannot do an email and do a call. Like, I cannot do this anymore.
Hmm.
My leader didn't see that. My targets were still going well. I was still performing. But what my leader did was, okay, wait, a top performer or just one of my employees saying something. So let me just take a moment to sit with her. So what worked
Wow.
really well for me was preventative coaching during my burnout. Um, that the leader said, okay, wait, I really take, I'm going to take attention. So what are you experiencing? And then I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know. It's just this, but there's something wrong with me. And I think, how people actually are open to help you out is amazing. So that's why I think you should say it, because there are more people willing to help you than you think.
Hmm.
Uh, and yeah, unexpected ways. So that's, for me, I think, very important. Educate leaders, and it's your own health. So I think that's the most important thing, especially in these times now that we're experiencing a pandemic globally. Like, your health is
Yeah.
so important. So take care of that. Yeah.
I agree 1,000%. That was my exact experience. I was just in a state of like, what's wrong with me? And I had no idea how to fix it. And it just continued to kind of snowball and snowball, and it did impact my performance. I just got to the point where it was just too much. And to, echo what Deanna said, have those conversations now. If you're feeling this way, yes, they might be uncomfortable. Yes, they might be tough, but your health and your life, your life and your livelihood are at stake here. You don't want to have those conversations when you're further down the path.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll even be a little harder on this. So again,
Yeah.
if so, first from a company perspective, if we see this and
Right.
and we do nothing about it, the employee is just going to actually just their performance is going to go down. And then what happens is we get to a point where somebody we've invested in, somebody who's been a great performer,
Right.
all of a sudden they're not. And
Yeah.
and so then what do? We either put them in a place where they actually get worse, or we try to like push them out. Um,
Right.
and that's not good for anybody, because what we did is we actually took what was it's horrible the way I'm going to say this, but we took what was a really important asset to the company, and we just let it depreciate to nothing. So that's
Right.
just from an
Right.
accounting perspective, you shouldn't do that. The it's but we all rarely does somebody work alone, and the way we are, the way people are in a team, in a group, we share that, and that can spread. The way we act, the way we interact. If somebody is used to be positive and now all of a sudden they're negative, that negativity starts to bleed over. We start to mirror. We've got all these mirror neurons in our head, and so that tends to spread as well. So we talk about performance, and then just sort of the impact on the team is huge. I also think about as a person. So I used to be more of an athlete than I am now, but you know, ongoing stress to the point that it starts to wear you, and stress will wear you if you don't take time to sort of recharge and build that resilience. Stress will wear you. It starts affecting your body. I mean, seriously. I mean, you're talking blood
Absolutely.
pressure, you're talking heart disease, you're talking, potentials for stroke, you're talking tension, migraines, you're talking things that are debilitating, almost almost life threatening. And so from a person perspective, we need to think about that this
Right.
stress that we have, this burnout that we're going toward, actually has a huge impact on our life, and all that can bring. So I think it's
Yeah.
it's really, really serious, and companies and people need to take it super seriously for their own health, for their company's health. So
Yeah.
sorry for that little doom and gloomish. Maybe that's why I'm wearing black today.
But that's,
Um,
Stephen, that's the
That,
truth of
yeah.
it. Burnout is not a joke. It is serious.
Yeah.
Productivity does not come from burnout. It just doesn't.
Yeah. And I think, Stephen, what you said, like, it gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
I told 2 minutes ago, perfect story, that I did preventative coaching, and I still wasn't believing it. So I needed to, I wasn't accepting the fact that I was going through it. So I physically got paralyzed for 2 days. I couldn't walk. I woke up and I
wow.
couldn't walk one day. And the hospital, I was 25 years old. So this is 10 years ago. There's a 25-year-old girl that wants to be the first female CEO of the company. And at 25, I'm in a hospital, and they said, if you were, if you were a week later, you would have a heart attack. And I was 25.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's, Emily, it's not a joke. And when you're this young, I mean, everyone tells you that health is important. And I just told this in in this conversation. But, when you go through it, then you suddenly think, oh, yes.
Right.
Um, you know,
Yeah,
and your body will give it. If you push your body, your body will just shut down.
it will let
Like
you know. For me, it was definitely anxiety and anxiety episodes.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the point, like, okay, this has gone way too far. You know, your body, when you're in burnout, you're in a state of fear. Your body, your brain and your body are doing everything they can to protect you, but it's just not a natural state that we can stay in.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, so I got goosebumps too.
Oh, I got chills too.
Yeah. So
going dark.
so what we'll do is we'll just sort of pivot on that point. So I think we made the
Right.
point. This is serious stuff.
Yeah.
So, two things, I guess. One, and maybe we'll start, okay, let's say that you've gotten past all your saboteurs and you've acknowledged the fact that you're in burnout or you're about to step into it, you're there. Okay. What do you do at that? What can you do at that point to start recharging, building resilience, building greater space to be in, so that you're sort of diminishing the level of burnout that you have, or you're walking away from that red line?
Right.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. First, you have to give yourself permission to do that. Showing yourself compassion and really, putting you in a space where you're putting your needs first. And it takes practice. If you're changing habits, if you're changing your thoughts, it takes time and practice. So first, give yourself that permission to do this. Set your, what are your non-negotiables? What boundaries do you need to put in place? What are those things that you need in your daily life that are going to bring you rest, breaks from your thoughts, and really give you that opportunity to recharge? If you're asking this much of yourself, you have to give that much to yourself. Kind of as we touched upon, as Stephen, I love the analogy of the athlete. Like, an athlete needs, if they're training hard, they also need to rest hard. And we need to give ourselves permission to do that. And often, things like insomnia and constant worry stand in that way of really giving ourselves that self-care and the rest that we need.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, there's one thing that you said there that I want to capture, make sure that people really heard it. You said you need to give yourself as much as you're taking from yourself. So if you're investing so much into your family, into your life, into your job, you need to give yourself that much time to recharge as well. We talked about, getting to the red line. I don't know why I'm writing with red today. Getting to the red line, and here's how we can start stepping back. But what can we do? Just sort of, what kind of habits, what can we do in our lives to sort of prevent us from actually getting really close or crossing over into burnout? What are some of the things that you guys have seen in your coaching and working with executives and people you talk about? What are some of the things that you guys have done and you do on a regular basis?
So I think the thing to really think about is, if you are a person going through burnout, what feels good to you? Is it working out? For me, once I work out, even if it's for a short period of time, I'm like, woo, I'm ready. Or if I'm feeling really deep in my thoughts and I meditate, those work for me. That doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. There's really no secret formula here. You really have to understand what makes you feel good. Sometimes meditation is for everybody. They don't like it, and that's absolutely fine. Like, what really makes you feel good, what keeps you at peace, what really makes you feel recharged. And that's part of the discovery of not just trying to fix a problem, but really discover that about yourself and what makes you feel good and what's going to help you kind of, face those bad days head on.
Yeah. And Lee, while you were talking, I was thinking about it as well. Like, what works for me, or what I a lot of times notice in coaching is, what works for me is anything that I want to do so exercise, I do it in the morning before I go into work.
Right. Right.
what you notice, people say, oh, I'll do it after work. And, if you want to prevent a burnout, like the
Right.
first thing you think about is yourself. So the morning you start is like, what do I need? Like, oh, I need to exercise. Maybe you have to stand up an hour earlier, but then you have it done and you had your
Mm.
time, because we all know how it is to go into the first meeting and running from one to the other.
Right.
We all experience that. Um, I personally have it now in place that in between meetings, I really have it blocked. I do have full scheduled days, but I make sure there's a
Right.
balance. So I always look back at a week and say, okay, how was the week for me? How do I feel on Friday? If you're exhausted and you need to sleep the whole Saturday to, load your battery, there's
Mm.
something wrong there.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I do. I evaluate on Friday, like, Friday should be the day that you're still energized to, have fun with your friends, with your family, something that gives you energy. So for me, it start in the morning with what gives you energy,
Right.
and look on Friday, or look in the weekend to have enough energy to, fill up the battery
Yeah.
again and go for it.
Right.
Yeah. It's great hearing that. 'Cause I'm a morning person as well. I get up early. I do my exercise in the morning, and then I attack the day. Um, the interesting thing is, I was just thinking back of for some of my friends, some of the people that people that I've grown up with, that have their professional path has taken them more to trades rather than sort of a thought workers. And I watch what they're doing. Some of them people, they love carpentry. They make chairs. They do stuff like that.
Right.
It's a hobby that they have, and during that hobby, they're doing something, and that's recharging them. That's helping them get through and sort of relativize all of those hard points that they had during the week. I ride motorcycles, and the guys that I ride motorcycles with, a couple of them own their own businesses, and that's kind of stressful, especially right now in the COVID. And what I've seen is what they've done is they've actually started working more on their motorcycles, taking them apart on the weekends, cleaning them up, doing things like that, because it gives them pleasure, and that pleasure getting that they're getting from that, and they're working with their hands or working with their mind, that's helping them recharge to be ready for the next week that's coming. So I think there are a lot of different ways. To talk about blocking your day. So I learned, and I actually put think time, or I guess thinking time, into my calendar. Okay. And I block it so that when everybody else is trying to get my time, that's time that they can't get. And that's my time to breathe, to relax, to read, to do some research, and just think about, I get paid to think about the future. So I can actually think about the future rather than, oh my gosh, what are we going to do next week? So there's that. And it just sprang on me when you were talking. When I worked on the assembly line, when I was in college, I was in college for engineering. And one of the things I did was I worked on an assembly line building cars. And I just recall, so that's sort of this tedious work, boom, boom, boom. And it can be draining. And I just looked at the way we interacted together, the friendships we built on the assembly line. That was an important thing. But I would also sing. I would sing in my head and sometimes sing out loud. And that would actually help get me through these interminable shifts where I'm doing the same thing over and over again. So it's just something that you can do with your mind. And even if you're putting cars together, you can do something in parallel that just allows you to recharge or make sure that the negative stuff isn't like overtaking the positive stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what that sounds like to you guys.
It just sounds like you're sparking, you have two parts of the brain, right? Your left brain and your right brain. And I think that's the thing. Like when you're talking about creativity or doing something automatically, that's when you spark the other side of your brain. That's creativity and gives you this positive energy. And I think that's important. So I totally agree. When I say what makes you happy, everyone has another answer. Do that. Do what makes you happy and gives you energy. Could be drawing. For me, it's hula hooping in the morning. That's my exercise. I have a hula hoop because I love music, so I combine that. But put a smile on your face, because, going into this, before you go into a burnout, I noticed I stopped smiling for a while before I really hit it. So, that's
so I'll just talk a little bit about, so again, I'm a manager of people, I lead people. Some of the things that I need to do, I can think about what kind of environment can I create for my teams so that they can address it, and beyond me just being aware and saying, hey, this is really important for me to be aware of. But for example, when we start meetings, you know, just to not jump right into it, to sort of talk about them as people, talk about people as people. Let us have a people to people exchange first, a connection, especially now since everything's happening just really remotely. Let's have a people to people connection before we start thinking about the business. And let's allow for laughter. Let's not frown on it. Let's encourage laughter. Let's encourage fun. We created it's a happiness committee. I mean, it sounds corny, but it's a group of people that get together, and what they do is they actually, part of their job is to think about what's going to make the team happy, and they come up with ideas and they bring those ideas forward. We don't do all of them, but we can do some of them. We give away what we call a golden ticket. Some people might have tickets to a concert or something like that they're not going to be able to go to. So they'll donate it to the happiness committee, and we'll do a raffle amongst the 250 people on the team to see who wins and who can go. So little things like that as a leader, as somebody in business, you can do to bring a different type of culture and environment that helps to sort of minimize or maybe reduce some of the stress and anxiety, or give people a little bit of time to recharge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it really starts with knowing your team, whether you have one-on-one check-ins, really kind of get a sense of what's going on with them, and starting those conversations there. A lot of the fear is, as an employee, going to your manager and not really knowing how it's going to be received. One of the biggest, lies of burnout is, I'm weak, I can't handle this, I'm not good enough. That judgment comes in, and it often stands in our way of asking for what we truly need. So I think it's, from a manager perspective, check in with your team. Just what's going on with them? How are they feeling about their workload, their goals? What's their priorities? How can you, as their manager, kind of collaborate? What's going to make the situation easier?
Yeah. And I think also for leaders, if you're, so this is preventative, but if you're experiencing someone that's already in there, I think that, speaking from a personal, like what you said, Emily, you feel like, I felt like a total loser. I felt like, here I am, 25 years old, burnout. I don't earn enough money yet to have a burnout. That's what I thought. Like, I'm not there yet. And then what my leader did, so, this is preventative. And sometimes you just need a leader to say, you need to stop now. Because I was this stubborn. I'm always stubborn. Even in my burnout, I was stubborn. So, and he had to say, Dan, I don't want to see you in the office for the upcoming 3 days. And that's when, Emily, what you talked about, like take rest and, listen to your body. That's when I was obliged to listen to it. I didn't want to listen to it. I just didn't. No. I didn't want to accept it. And then when I did, and I went through this whole phase, when I came back to the office, my leader gave me the biggest account that we landed. After just, and and what he said to me is like, I know you're only working 16 hours now because you're building up your hours. And I freaked out. And he said, no, I know you got this. So, I'm going to give you this 16 hours, the biggest account we have. And I'm just going to make a team around you. So you can, and, I think now it was the biggest compliment someone could give me, to be like, hey, you're back, and, you're going to do it again. So I think as a leader as well, believing in your employees that, I've got your back. And, for me, this was an extreme example, but it made me confident again, because, you're so, I was so not confident when I came back to the workforce. Yeah.
I just got goosebumps from the leadership that leader demonstrated. Yeah. And what this brings to mind for me is, and this may be a segue into to talk a little bit deeper about it, leading with a coaching mindset can change everything. It can change the environment that we work within, for our employees and for ourselves. Asking questions rather than telling, listening, connecting with our people more authentically, allowing people to be their more authentic self. It has so many huge performance benefits, and part of that performance is keeping the team whole, and knowing that everyone on our team, they're there for a reason. They're all naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. So how do we use that, those amazing assets, those people that we have to accomplish what we need to, and so everybody feels fulfilled. So I use the word coaching there, and I know we all coach. We all do sort of a little different type of coaching, but there is overlap in our little Venn diagram of coaching. So what does, how do you approach this as a coach? How can coaching help? What does a coaching relationship look like in this space, either for somebody who's there or as, preventative, somebody, a real hard work or something like that, understands that this might come up, and how can coaching help them?
Yeah, I think, from a coaching perspective, what's unique about it is it's that person's own experience where they get to be in a space where it's just about them and what's going on. And I think coaches give this amazing gift that they can really kind of hear things that the client might be saying in a different way, and can really show that client the full picture of what's going on, what's really, to be able to name those stressors, change their relationship with them, what can and can't they control in the situation, and what's really going to help them live, as you said, a life with purpose, where their values are up front and they really have a vision for what that life is like. Is it something that happens overnight? No, it takes time to really, as we kind of mentioned, saboteurs, which are those pieces and parts of our subconscious that feel so real and have been with us for so long. And once we really get to know those pieces and parts and how to kind of be in a relationship with them, but we're running the show and they're kind of being quieter, although they pop in, especially when we're trying to do something new. That's just how they work. But it really can change everything in your perspective of what's really going on and what's really important. So I really think that's where a coach and coaching can really offer that unique perspective. Because when you're in it, you're in it. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to kind of, even if you're talking to others, family members, partners, they just have this ability to give a different perspective.
Yep.
So you can see things kind of like, from a different view. The meta view.
Yeah.
Just throwing in some coaching terms,
Yeah. And so, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think I echo what Emily's saying, and it all has to do with diving deep. A coach allows you to go deep, see the bad and the ugly, and actually see that it's not, that you've got this. And I think, by just asking questions and opening something up, it's really diving deep. Family members, even employers, there's always, even the greatest leaders still think while they're asking you questions, they're already thinking about other stuff, where a coach is fully present just with you and gives you the whole stage to be who you want to be at that moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I think that really helps when you're in this kind of situation or thinking that you may go into this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think
it also
go ahead.
gives you that accountability. They're going to hold you accountable. If there's something you want to work on, if in a session, that plan, that they're going to hold you accountable. That's where the magic really happens, is kind of in between those sessions. So it's like that built-in accountability to make those changes.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I work in industry and with senior executives, and often they hear coaching and it's good for somebody else, but not for them. And I have to remind them, if you think about the best athletes, okay, think about Magic Johnson, think about Shaq when he was playing, think about LeBron James. If you think about basketball, think about the top athletes. They actually have performance coaches, not necessarily to tell them how to be a better basketball player or how to be a better football player, a better runner, a better skier. The coach is actually there to help them break through those barriers that they've created for themselves, those constraints that we all build around our being and our thoughts. And that's what I think coaching and the coaching that I've done and I've seen, it allows people to do, one, to really understand themselves, understand their purpose, understand their values. When the work you're doing aligns with your purpose and your values, you're most likely to be energized and have that sort of auto refill your tank than when they're going against one another. And the coaching, like you said, it allows you to go deep. It allows you to explore things from different perspectives. And one thing that's really important, so I do some coaching inside the enterprise as well, where I work, And people need to understand when you're working with a coach, confidentiality is supreme. That
Absolutely.
if there is no safer place other than in your own head, there's no safer place for you to have a conversation and tell you what's actually going on. And sometimes just being able to talk about it lifts this burden,
Yeah.
off of you, and allows you to see with greater clarity. I mean, that's one of the reasons I got into coaching, was actually to help people achieve their potential, and through that, through other people, to change the world, to make a positive impact on the world. And I think that's one of the things that allows us to do in working with a coach, is that it's very positive, uplifting, and provides clarity towards the direction that we want to go in.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was long-winded, wasn't it?
No, but I think that's definitely an important point. If you're in burnout, you're not yourself. You're not performing. You're not living up to your full potential.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you really want to stay here is the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this has been an amazing conversation. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But if we wanted to sort of summarize it, give some key takeaways, think about all the things we've talked about, maybe what it is, signs, how to manage, and coaching. What to say from each of us? Let's maybe pick 3 to 5 things that we'd want to leave people with. Who wants to start?
I'm happy to start. I'm just gonna go off the top of my head here. First, if you're experiencing burnout, it is not your fault. What is happening? I want anyone who's listening who's feeling this way, or has, or concerned they might be going into that path. Again, it is not your fault. Your body and your brain are doing what they need to do to protect you right now. With that, being said, take care of yourself. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself. That's, especially if you're in this place, that's the most important right now. What resources are around you? Kind of what's standing in the way of getting for the help that you might need right now. And don't be afraid to ask. And again, show compassion for yourself. Give yourself time, and really do what you need to do for yourself right now. I think is really kind of the key messages that I'd convey to anybody who's feel like they're headed down that path.
Okay, that's great. Dee, what would you like to add?
Yeah, what I would like to add, if you're watching this and you're like, if you have a moment, a question mark moment,
Yeah.
When their question mark is there, am I experiencing stress symptoms? Am I experiencing burnout? That's the hit, actually, to just share with someone.
Right.
Sometimes your family or friends actually already notice something different. Steven, you just mentioned that you see different things in your team. Sometimes the outside world sees it earlier than you do. You experience it, but the outside world sees it. So that's the difference. So I think when there's a question mark, share it with someone. Hey, I'm feeling different. Do you notice anything? That's how you open it. So baby steps, I think, when approaching this. The second tip is to, I think really to monitor sometimes. So that works for me. So my second tip is monitor yourself. Bad days, good days. That's confronting, but because I was so stubborn, so coming from a very stubborn person that didn't want to accept it,
Yeah.
maybe that's that. And definitely the third one is talk to leadership. If you're in a job right now, talk to your leader. Because leaders actually have been maybe going through this, but they became leaders because they know how to deal with certain things. They can protect you from things if you need it.
Right.
So that's for me, I think, in a job, to definitely do that.
Okay.
If you're already in it, sorry, Stephen, last
Yeah,
one.
no, go for it. Yeah.
If you're already in it, and I think confidentiality is so important at that moment. Choose someone outside of your personal space, out of your workplace, to talk to. Coach, a coach, or anything that you feel like, okay, this is where I can be my full self and I can just express myself how I'm feeling right now. So that's it for me.
Wow. And to echo that, if you're getting to that space where you where you're really feeling stuck, that's where a coach can really come in and help you look at the situation in a different way. And one thing I would add is also name and get to know your stressors. What's really, yes, work might be stressful, but what about it? Make a list. What can you control and what can't you control? Is there a little change or something you can do to alleviate that stress? Like really get to understand and know what's kind of driving this burnout.
Yeah, so those are great things. What's coming to mind for me, there are a couple of things. One, as a leader, understand that this is real. Okay,
Yeah.
know that by addressing it, you're actually helping. You're fulfilling your role as a leader in helping your team and your enterprise. So that's part of it there. As a leader, also keep an eye out on your team. Check in with them more. Listen, really connect.
Right.
And if you see something, you know, and Dee, you talked about, you know, the outside world sees things maybe before you're feeling it. You know, if you see something, talk about it. Okay. If you see people who have like a change in mood or a change in energy level, talk about it. Be able to feel comfortable pulling it out of the person to talk about it. I think that's something that's really important. You know, building things into the work environment to allow people time to recharge. Don't expect people to work overtime, back-to-back meetings. You know, right now in COVID, we have people who are, you know, working from home. They're in meetings all day long. Then they have to do some work overtime. Plus, they're teachers for their kids who are in school.
Yeah.
You know, some of them may be taking some of their parents. You know, there's huge stress factors outside of the normal stress of work.
Exactly.
Understand it and give people the space to process that. You know, lead with a coaching mindset, I think, is really important. And you know, maybe it's something to think about. Talk to, you know, if you're in a company, talk to your HR department. Talk to them about what can you do. You know, they have so many resources available that we just ignore. Talk to your HR department. You know, they may actually have internal coaches to help with this specific type of issue. And maybe you can be proactive for yourself, for members of your team. You know, maybe you organize sort of a team meeting where you're talking about this, which actually helps build the team's strength together and also begins to lower that stress level and makes it okay to be open about what we're going through. Because once we're open, it's a lot easier to treat something than if not. Those were the different things that came to my mind. You know, reach out to us. You know, we're coaches. We help people through, you know, great moments, difficult moments. We help people understand their purpose, align values with purpose, and, you know, to see things from different perspectives. That's what coaching can do. Coaching can help people achieve really their full potential as they're moving forward. Emily, Dee, thanks for this incredible conversation. Thought it was really amazing. If people want to learn more, they want to reach out, how can they get in touch with you? Emily, why don't you start and then we'll go to Dee.
Sure. You can always reach out and get to know me better at my website, which is www.emilycitronecoaching.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me an invite. Let's talk, especially if you're going through burnout. Love connecting with people and having conversations there. So you can find me there too.
Awesome. Thank you. And Dee, what about you?
Well, we're going into another time zone. So I think the easiest way, wherever you're from in the world, is LinkedIn. So you can just drop me a message at Diana Diniz. If you send me an invitation, please send a message because I don't accept invitations without knowing you. So that's the only thing I wanted to add to that. So just Diana Diniz on LinkedIn and you'll find me there. Reach out and I'll get back to you and we will coordinate the time zones.
Awesome. And then for me, everybody can reach me at www.bouchongmedia.com or Stephen@bouchongmedia.com. LinkedIn as well, S. Bouchong, or just do a search on Next Steps Conversations. We have a channel on YouTube where this video is going to rest. Again, Dee, Emily, thank you so much for this. Truly appreciate it. And I think we really have a chance to make an impact on people's lives here. Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.